Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry we didn't have our in-person today. The rain earlier was pretty ugly, especially down here in Mid-County and in Port Arthur, from what Paula shared. So we're gonna make the best of it. Now, I hope this will be a good substitute for it. So, anyways, we'll go ahead and begin our service. Our welcome and announcements. I'd just like to share with you that I always like to share the dates going on at that time, what's going on this month, and we've got Native American Heritage Month this month, Alzheimer's Awareness Month, Veterans Day is a week from this Monday. On the 13th of this month, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled racial segregation on buses was unconstitutional. November 20th is our Transgender Day of Remembrance. The National Day of Mourning, or Thanksgiving Day, whichever way you prefer to look at it, is on November 28th, 2024. And I'd love this date. Charles Darwin published his Origin of the Species on November 24th, and we refer to that as Evolution Day. And there's something else going on Tuesday. I can't remember what's going on, so we'll just skip that. So, our opening words: there will be a brightness to this day, even if there is a cloud and rain outdoors. The brightness of this day comes from within. From this gladly gathered company, there will be color and fragrance to this day. This color and the fragrance come from within. From the flowering of our spirits in this place, there will be praise and laughter to this day. Even if there will be difficulty elsewhere in the world, the praise and laughter come from within. For our hearts leap with us as we gather together to worship today. Let there be brightness today. Let there be color and fragrance today. Let there be praise and laughter. We'll have our chalice lighting virtually. Within the heart of the flower, the fountain of beauty. Within the heart of the community, a fire that warms and dances. And within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. If you'd like to just read along with me quietly, our affirmation: love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, thus do we covenant with one another. Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we find meaning. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this moment to reflect on our joys and concerns and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. I will place a virtual pebble for all our joys and concerns that are on our hearts this morning, and we'll spend a moment just to meditate on them. Our first reading is going to be by Fred Van Diesus, who is a member of the Unitarians for Social Justice. And I found this online and I found it kind of interesting. He wrote this almost a year ago exactly. So I will, if you'll bear with me, I'll read this with you right now. Our democracy is in danger. Our country is at a crossroads. Those who support democracy, whether independent, Republican, or Democrat, must speak out powerfully. It strikes me that the anti-democratic forces on the far right do much better to control the narrative than those who support democracy. They are in the news daily with strong support from an influential national media outlet that we won't name here. President Biden sometimes seems like a lone voice in the wilderness who we only hear from on occasion. We must be clear-eyed and honest about the forces that threaten our democracy, but inclusive in finding those who share our concerns. We must be clear-eyed and honest about the forces that threaten our democracy, but inclusive in finding all of those who are harmed by these forces, by the other forces. Our faith asks us to be radically inclusive in our approach to relationships, including being radically inclusive in our efforts to save democracy, save our democracy. We must find ways to help our fellow country members cope with the cultural changes they fear. We must help each other act in defense of our democracy. As Unitarian Universalists, we all need to get comfortable talking to each other, to friends and family, to others we meet, and to news outlets. Perhaps we must become brave for our democracy in this way. Our executive director calls this civic bravery. We need to tell a story that gives us hope for the future and shows the contrast between what we want and what the detractors of our democracy are pursuing. We need a narrative to get people's attention and to invite more people to join us in our concern. Grounding this work in our Unitarian Universalist faith is essential. We must change things. And since we're not meeting together, our offertory will be now. I will go ahead and.
This is the offering hymn, number 402. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and in this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and in this we live.
Thank you. Well, and let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and hope, for we are now keepers of the dream. And while an offering would typically be gratefully received, please use this time to keep our church and its mission in your hearts and prayers. Our second reading today is entitled Unitarians, Politics, and the Art of Car Maintenance. And this was written by Adam Odell, who also makes our helps construct our music for our Soul Matters publication that we utilize. He starts with a quote from Victor Hugo. Music expresses that which cannot be put into words and that which cannot remain silent. I write this reflection not knowing how Tuesday will play out. I have no idea what kind of repair work our congregations will need to do in our communities once the election plays out. I can't know for sure which specific songs will speak to the moment. We could be ready to help repair governance after our favorite local, state, or national candidates win, or ready to repair and maintain our own hearts and the hearts of our community if those candidates lose. This month, I could speak to the many emotions we may be feeling as we wrap up election season and settle into the reflective mood of the colder months. But seeing as I can't predict the future, I'm going to talk about my car. My engine was smoking during a drive about a week ago, and I feared the worst. I knew I had a slow leak that was scheduled to get fixed soon. Did that snowball into something blowing or cracking? Was it so severe I was going to have to buy a new car? I opened the hood, and to my relief, the shop that recently changed my oil had been a little sloppy, and I just needed to clean up some surfaces. I turned the car back on. No smoke, but there's still a smell of oil and some friction noise. I checked the levels, and I found that the differential oil was low and the transmission oil was actually overfilled. The mechanic who changed my oil guessed wrong about where the leak was and gave one tank too much and left the other without enough. My next appointment is coming up soon. I'm not an auto mechanic, nor am I a political analyst, but there are a few things I believe to be true about repair. Repair work can be tedious, but it can also be surprising. Sometimes making one repair will reveal yet more repair work to do. Sometimes you need to repair something just because you've done too little, other times because you've done too much, and sometimes you just need to repair something because that's just the nature of things. But I like my car, and I have a lot of memories with it, and while it's seen better days, I still think it's worth repairing. At some point soon, I hope to have something newer, safer, more comfortable, and more efficient, but I'm not going to abandon my car waiting until that happens. So I'll keep taking it to whichever mechanic I think is right for the job, and I'll keep doing what I can to take care of it myself. And as with life, I think that's the best any of us can do with anything. Our meditation this morning is from the Reverend Vanessa Southern, and you can read along with me. It's on your screen. So much to heal in us and the world, and up against it, the reality of all that falls short and the limits of today. We honor our limits. If your body won't do what it used to for right now, let that be enough. If your mind won't stop racing or can't think of the word, let that be enough. If you are here utterly alone in despair, be all that, but be it here with us. The world won't stop spinning on her axis if you don't rise to all occasions today. Love won't cease to flow in your directions. Your heart won't stop beating, and all hope won't be lost. You are part of the plan for this world's salvation. The world needs its oceans of people striving to be good, to carry us to the shores of hope and to wash fear from the beachheads and cleanse all wounds so they can heal. Perhaps then you'll feel it in your bones, in your weary heart, the aching, healing sense that this is enough, even this, that we are enough, and you are enough. And well, I invite you to join me in a moment of silence and return in just a moment. So, in keeping with our topic for the month, our message today is going to be on the spiritual practice of repair. And I've got no one to blame if you don't like this one other than me because I wrote this one. It just was kind of in my head, my heart, and I thought I'd share it with you. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to reflect on, as I mentioned, on our November topic of the spiritual practice of repair as a way of moving through life and hopefully provide a few words of inspiration in advance of Tuesday. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. A life well lived, I believe, is one dedicated to uplifting human dignity through acts of repair, mending what is torn, fixing what's broken, and healing wounds and divisions. The concept of repair as a spiritual practice has its deep roots in many religious traditions. In Judaism, the act of tikkun olam, which means repair of the world, expresses the idea that although the world is broken and imperfect, we each have a responsibility to engage in acts of repair and healing to make it better. Repairing the world is seen as a sacred obligation and a form of imitating the divine. Similarly, in the Japanese art of kintsugi, broken pottery is repaired with gold, silver, or platinum, treating the breakage and repair as part of the object's history rather than something to hide. The repaired object is considered more beautiful for having been broken. What a profound metaphor for the beauty and strength that can emerge from human brokenness when we engage in repair. And in West African philosophy, there's the Andinkra symbol for Sankofa, Sankofa, which depicts a bird reaching back to retrieve an egg from its back. It represents the wisdom of learning from the past to build a strong future. Sankofa reminds us to go back and retrieve what is lost, broken, or forgotten and carry it into the present to make repairs for a better future. A life of repair begins with looking back with clear eyes at what is broken, wounded, or unjust. It takes courage to acknowledge hard truths about our world and communities and our relationships and ourselves. The Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams wrote, "Without inner change, there can be no outer change. Without collective change, no change matters." Both personal and societal repair are necessary. Healing the wounds we carry inside allows us to show up more whole to the work of repair in the world. And there is so much work to be done. We live in a world plagued by division, injustice, violence, oppression, and environmental destruction, and no one is untouched by brokenness. At times it can feel overwhelming, but acts of repair, however small, are never futile. The Mishnah, a Jewish text, says it is not your responsibility to finish the work of perfecting the world, but you're not free to desist from it either. In other words, just because we can't finish the job doesn't let us off the hook from doing our part. And every act of repair matters. Repairing a relationship by offering a heartfelt apology, repairing your local community by volunteering at a food bank, repairing our democracy by voting and protecting voting rights, repairing the planet by composting or reducing energy use or by advocating for climate justice. We must each find the cracks where we are uniquely positioned to pour in the gold of repair. The work of repair is not just about fixing what's broken, but it's also about building anew. In the words of Adrienne Marie Brown, we are not just here to heal and usher in a new world. We have to imagine a new world. We have to make a new world. Imagining and building a world of justice, compassion, and sustainability is an essential part of the repair work we are called to do. It requires creativity, collaboration, and a willingness to dream big. None of us can repair or remake the whole world alone. It takes all of us doing our part day after day. A life of repair is one of humility and knowing that we can't do it all, but faithfully doing everything that we can. The Rabbi Tarfon teaches, it is not your duty to complete the work, but you're not at liberty to neglect it. We're all in this together for the long haul. Change happens slowly and victories are rarely permanent. They must be defended and re-won again. Choosing repair as a spiritual practice as a way of life requires cultivating resilience, determination, solidarity, and hope. And hope is not a luxury, it's a necessity for doing this work. In the words of Mariam Kaba, hope is a discipline. We must actively practice hope, not as baseless optimism, but as fuel for the long labor of repair and rebuilding ahead. As we await the results of Tuesday's election, I know I speak for just about all of us, if not all of us, that we're all feeling a little bit scared and anxious. The prospect of another Trump presidency feels like an existential threat to the rights, freedoms, and very identities that every one of us hold dear. In times like these, it's more important than ever that we need to lean on each other and our faith. Our UU principles call us to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person and to seek justice and equity and to stand on the side of love. These are not just abstract ideals, they're a roadmap for how to show up in challenging times. As Unitarians, our work in the face of a potential second Trump administration would be twofold. On the first hand, we must be steadfast in our commitment to protect and uplift those most vulnerable to harm under such leadership, the marginalized, the oppressed, and the othered. At the very same time, however, we are called to find ways to heal the deep divisions in our society and to build bridges of understanding, even with those whose views and actions we find difficult to understand and comprehend. And I'm going to be honest with all of you. I've struggled with this personally this week. Both of my siblings have embraced the MAGA movement. It's hard for me to reconcile their support for a leader who promotes exclusion and hostility with the teachings of love and compassion espoused by their evangelical faith tradition they claim to follow. But in the midst of this cognitive dissonance, I believe we must strive to see the humanity in one another and to find common ground where we can and to model the radical inclusion and unconditional love that lies at the heart of our Unitarian values. It's not easy, but it's necessary if we hope to mend the tear in the fabric of our nation and our families that Donald Trump fomented 10 years ago. If the worst should have happened and the forces of bigotry and authoritarianism take hold, we will need to be a bastion of love and resistance. Our congregation, Spindletop Unitarian, will need to be a sanctuary for all who are targeted and threatened. We will join hands with other Southeast Texans of conscience and defend the most vulnerable, to protect hard-won rights, and to resist injustice at every turn. But even in our fear, let us hold space for hope, because no election outcome can strip away our inherent dignity and power. Every act of love, courage, and repair makes a difference no matter who holds office. And there are more people in this country who believe in justice, compassion, and equality than those who don't. Our MAGA neighbors and family may be louder than us, but they don't outnumber us. We are not alone in our fight against the radical right and their Christian nationalist, which is anything but Christian, platform based on racism, homophobia, and division. So let us continue to imagine and work towards a world we know is possible, a world of belonging for people of all genders, all orientations, and a world where everyone's needs are met and everyone's gifts are valued, a world of justice, sustainability, of peace and love. That world is already being born in the cracks of the old. It lives in our hearts and in our hands. Tuesday's result, whatever it may be, is but one point in the long arc of the moral universe. And that arc, as Dr. King taught us, bends towards justice, but only if we have the faith and fortitude to bend it that way. So please take heart. We were made for times like these. Center yourself in our deepest values. Hold your loved ones close and remember that we're not alone. Together with love and determination, we'll continue the sacred work of repair and transformation within and beyond the walls of our church. And that's regardless of the outcome Tuesday. May it be so. Amen. So I think I may have gotten some slides out of order. I'm going to go ahead and read our closing words for the week. As we await Tuesday's election results, may the earth lend you strength. May the water give you adaptability, the air inspiration, and the fire courage. Remember, no matter the outcome, you have within you everything needed to meet the moment and build a better world. In the days ahead, center yourself in love and lean on your community. Keep the faith that together we can bend the arc towards justice. The beauty and potential of life endures. Carry the light of hope wherever you go. You are a blessing to Southeast Texas and beyond. May the spirit of life and love sustain you always. And I am wishing you all a week of resilience, connection, and unshakable hope. And I'd be lying if I wasn't saying, and I hope we have a great outcome on Tuesday. So every one of you guys have a great week, and we'll go ahead and have our chalice, close out our chalice. As we extinguish this flame, let our commitment shine on to welcome radically, to love boldly, and to serve courageously. All those marginalized, oppressed, and afraid in the face of hatred and injustice from the extreme right, we kindle the light of resistance and compassion. In the face of their efforts to marginalize those who do not look, act, believe, or love like them, we go forth fiercely to defend the inherent worth of every person. May the vision of beloved community guide us to confront their bigotry with radical inclusion, to counter the fear they foster with audacious hope. The work is ours to do, with abiding love for all. As the chalice goes dark, its glow lives on in our hearts, igniting our faith and action. Amen, and blessed be. And I'll play our leaving song as we close out. May each of you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much.